All right, Saturday, February 15th, 2020. Working on the white 2105. So, needs a clutch, throwout bearings out of it, and got to pull the engine. And you got to take a lot of stuff off the front here because you got to, I'm going to pull this out with the power shift. And you can only go forward so far before you hit the taper of this, of the frame. So I'm gonna have to pull it forward and up. And yesterday I got the fuel tank off. I got on yesterday's tractor forum, and some guys were saying you could get the fuel tank off without jacking the cab up. I don't see how that was possible, but I had to jack the cab up. There's two bolts here, undo the loosen up the rear bolts, there's rear bolts on each side and they act like a hinge. Somebody gave me advice on the internet on yesterday's tractor forum, and jacked it up about 3 or 4 inches. Gives you some clearance here, the fuel tank. I took part of the dash apart so I could get in here, get these hydraulic lines off that go over the top of the fuel tank. And there's a hydraulic steering motor in here, and I got some leaks in here, some of these hoses. So these are all going to come out and get replaced. Good opportunity to do that. We're going to overhaul the engine. So one problem, I'm not sure how far forward you got to pull the engine. I think I got the radiator and the oil cooler out of the way, but the condenser, this is a homemade thing that we did years ago, and it has rigid copper lines. So if I was going to take the condenser out, I'd have to open up the AC system, and I don't want it to. This is still an R12 system. On these whites, the original AC on these early models, the condenser was up there in back of the cab, and it had tiny little condenser fans that they were exposed to the elements, and they'd always seize up and go bad on you. So this is a compressor, I think we went to the junkyard. Buddies of my dad who had a radiator shop in town years ago. He was the brains behind this. We got this out of a Volvo at a junkyard. It's a really nice rotary piston compressor. And I think this came out of a Saab or something like that, this condenser. It happened to be the right dimensions to fit in here. Then we just did all brand new copper lines. When you have an AC system going bad on you, various parts getting aged, just redo the whole thing. Usually you're farther ahead. So I'm gonna have to suspend this compressor, make like a stand right here on the side. So got a few things to pull off. I'm gonna try to pull the turbo along with the manifolds off, all as one piece. Well, it's on the tractor before we pull it out. A few other things to pull off, and then we'll be pulling this engine, and my mechanic's gonna rebuild it. But that'll give me time I'm gonna replace all these oil cooler lines, hydraulic cooler lines. A lot of stuff's gonna get replaced. Gonna make this like new. Gonna get in here, pull the floor mat up the cab, maybe paint in here, try to get ahead of any rust. So it's a 1977, painted the exterior of it a couple years ago, kind of customized it, put red fenders on it, and put my own red stripe on it. There's the side panels. But all right, just you guys got any background in rebuilding these things or pulling engines out of a white 2105, let me know. There's a guy online that had Chris Lucy. He's over here by Springport, Michigan. They used to be an Oliver White dealer, and he's got tons of service videos on whites and Olivers, but doesn't have one on pulling a Perkins 354 out of this frame. One thing I know, I do got to pull the power shaft, live power out of this, and he just had a video pulling it out of I think a 1655 or an 1855. Anyways, exact same rear end really on how you pull that live power shaft out. And the vibration I've been feeling at around 1700. Mark Cornell, another local farmer, said it's probably that power shaft that goes all the way up here to the flywheel. He said if you do a lot of PTO work with it, which is exactly what this tractor does a lot of, that those splines start rounding off, wearing out, and you get that vibration. And I think that's actually what it is. I don't think the engine is bad at all, but it's 10,000 hours. If I'm gonna go through all this work to do the clutch, might as well do the engine. All right, thanks for tuning in.